Something is happening to the land in the Ozarks that most people who live there can feel but cannot fully see. The family down the road put their farm on the market last spring. Local buyers showed up with offers. They were serious people, farmers, some of them third and fourth generation, who knew the land and knew its value and came prepared with financing they had arranged at the local bank, with plans for what they would do with the acreage, with the kind of investment that comes from wanting to actually live somewhere. Every one of them lost. A buyer from out of state paid cash above asking price without a contingency, without a farm inspection, and without any of the friction that local buyers bring to a transaction because they are planning to be present for the consequences of their decisions. The farm sold in days. The new owner does not live there. Nobody does. It will be leased back to an operator, held as an investment, or converted to something else entirely. The family that farmed it for 3 generations is gone. That story is playing out across the Ozarks and across rural Missouri in ways that the data is only beginning to quantify. The land is changing hands. The farms that people grew up on, that their parents and grandparents built, that define the agricultural and cultural identity of communities across southwest Missouri and the southern hill country, are being purchased by entities that have no relationship with those communities and no interest in developing one. The question this video is going to answer is the question that local people have been raising in county seats and feed stores and farm bureau meetings for years. Who is actually buying it, and what do they plan to do with it? The answers are more complicated than the headlines suggest, and they are considerably more troubling than most people outside this region realize. Start with the numbers, because the numbers tell a story that can't be argued away. Missouri farmland averaged roughly $2,200 per acre in 2009. By 2023, the state average had reached $4,500 per acre, more than double in 14 years. Cropland specifically averaged $4,610 per acre. In recreational counties of the Ozarks, Stone County near Branson, Taney County, where Table Rock Lake draws millions, and Camden County on the Lake of the Ozarks, prices run considerably higher. Stone County recreational acreage averages $8,700 per acre. Taney County averages $8,500 per acre. Camden County averages $5,500 per acre. Lakefront parcels in these counties run from $100,000 to over $500,000 for premium waterfront sites. These are not numbers that reflect any change in what the land produces. A federal survey found that 65% of respondents believe farmland prices were too high relative to what the land actually generates in agricultural income, and 1 in 4 expected prices to continue rising regardless, in a pattern that university researchers described as consistent with a price bubble. The grass does not grow twice as thick as it did in 2009. The timber has not doubled its board feet. The cattle operation on 100 acres in Douglas County is not twice as profitable as it was 14 years ago. The price increase reflects something else entirely: demand from buyers who are not buying the land to farm it and who are pricing the land based on investment return rather than agricultural yield. Darvin Bentleg is a 4th-generation farmer in Missouri. He spent decades farming roughly 700 acres in the state. When he decided to scale back his operation and sell those acres, he priced the land at $4,500 per acre, at or below the 2023 state average. A fair price by any measure, not the top of what the market would bear. Local family farmers showed up to bid. They wanted the land. They knew the land and what it could produce and had plans for it, rooted in actually working it. By every traditional definition of what a farm sale is supposed to look like, they were the right buyers. Not one of them could afford it. An out-of-state, corporate-backed buyer paid the asking price in cash and closed the deal without the delays and conditions that come with bank financing. Bentleg told reporters he had not tried to gouge anyone. He just wanted a fair price for land his family had worked for 4 generations. He got it. The farm is now owned by people who do not live in Missouri. He had discouraged his own children from following him into farming. He told them to go get a steady job that pays them. The generational legacy did not end with a decision. It ended with a market condition. He said the small guys cannot compete. He had been saying that since 2021, and by 2024, he was more convinced of it than ever. So who are the buyers? The answer has 3 categories, and all 3 are active in the Ozarks simultaneously. The first category is investment firms, large institutional players, companies like Farmland Partners, PGIM, the $10 billion property asset management division of Prudential Financial, and Gladstone Land, have been expanding their farmland holdings across the American interior for over a decade. Farmland has historically been described by economists as inflation-proof. It produces reliable returns, holds value across market cycles, and is backed by an asset that cannot be manufactured or replaced. Wall Street recognized this and began buying accordingly. The U.S. Agriculture Secretary put the scale of this bluntly. In 2024, roughly a third of all farming operations generating more than $500,000 in annual sales are now owned by investment outfits. These firms are not buying land to grow food. They are buying land as a financial instrument, leasing it back to operators to generate returns, and in some cases, reselling parcels at prices as much as 5 times higher than regional averages. The executives of those investment firms say they are not driving up prices. They are simply competing in an open market. But the effect on local buyers is the same regardless of motive. When an institutional investor with a $100 million fund bids on a 200-acre Ozark farm, the family farmer borrowing from a local bank is not in the same competition. They are in different competitions that happen to be using the same auction. Subscribe before you go further. Hit the button and the bell. 2 more categories to cover. The second category is recreational buyers, and this is the category most directly visible to Ozarks residents. The Ozarks have always drawn people who want to hunt, fish, and be on the water. Float trips, deer season, bass fishing on Table Rock and the Lake of the Ozarks. Outside money has always found its way into these counties for recreation. What has changed is the scale, the permanence, and the explicit investment framing of the buying. Urban professionals from Kansas City, St. Louis, Chicago, Dallas, and beyond have discovered that Ozark land is still comparatively affordable compared to anywhere else they might want to own something, and that 100 acres in Douglas County, Shannon County, or Oregon County provides hunting, a weekend cabin, a hedge against whatever is happening in the city, and, in recent history, strong appreciation. Real estate listings for Ozark recreational land market these properties openly to outside investors. The language is consistent across platforms. Affordable entry price, exceptional deer and turkey hunting, current river or Jack's Fork access, quality timber, off-grid potential, strong long-term investment value. These listings are not written for local buyers. They are written for people in cities who have capital they want to deploy in a landscape they want to visit but not inhabit. In the lakeside counties, Stone, Tenney, and Camden, recreational buying is amplified further by the short-term rental economy. A waterfront cabin on Table Rock Lake generating $150 to $300 per night during peak season is not a cabin in the traditional sense anymore. It is a yield-producing asset. Outside investors are purchasing these properties specifically to operate them as Airbnb and VRBO listings, removing them permanently from the inventory of housing that might otherwise be available to the people who live and work in those communities year-round. The Lake of the Ozarks average home price now sits at $431,000. That number does not reflect the wages paid in the service economy that sustains the lake's tourism industry. The workers who clean the boats, staff the restaurants, and keep the facilities running are not earning wages that support $431,000 mortgages. The third category is the most politically charged and the least reported. Foreign corporate ownership of Missouri farmland is real and documented, embedded in a specific legislative history that most residents of this state do not know about. Until 2013, Missouri law banned all foreign entities from purchasing the state's farmland. That ban was changed to allow foreign ownership up to 1% of the state's total farmland, with exceptions. One of those exceptions explicitly covers hog farming. The relaxation of reporting requirements for corporate land ownership was passed at roughly the same time. Within weeks of the rule change, the Chinese-owned pork production giant Smithfield, which had just been acquired by WH Group, purchased Missouri farmland. An investigation by the St. Louis Post-Dispatch found that all the legislators who pushed the amendment enabling the rule change had received significant campaign contributions from Smithfield. As of 2015, WH Group was reported to own approximately 42,000 acres of Missouri farmland. Chinese entities now own more than 40% of the foreign-owned acreage in Missouri, tracked by state data. Foreign ownership represents a fraction of the total picture. State records show foreign entities currently hold 0.43% of all Missouri farmland. But the Missouri Rural Crisis Center argues that focusing on foreign buyers misses the larger point, that the corporate, multinational takeover of the farm and food system is primarily domestic in nature. In one generation, the organization notes, 90% of Missouri's independent hog producers were put out of business. That was not accomplished by Chinese companies. That was accomplished by the consolidation of the American pork industry into a small number of massive operations that eliminated the market for independent producers entirely. What are they planning to do with it? The investment firms are planning to generate returns. Some are holding for appreciation. Land that doubled in value since 2009 has demonstrated that patient ownership pays. Some are leasing to the large-scale farming operations that have absorbed the land base of the small and medium farms, steadily exiting the industry for 30 years. A PGIM report described the direction of travel without apology. An aging farmer generation, fractional family ownership structures, and the capital requirements of modern agriculture will naturally transfer farmland from individual ownership to institutional ownership. The report did not present this as a problem. It presented it as an investment thesis. The same transformation that turned American manufacturing from thousands of small shops to dozens of giant plants, now being applied to the land itself. The recreational buyers are planning to hunt, to visit seasonally, to rent, and to hold. The Ozarks counties most targeted for this activity, Shannon, Oregon, Carter, Howell, and Texas, are among the least economically developed in Missouri. These are counties where the property tax base funds schools, roads, and public services, and where the conversion of a working farm to a managed hunting preserve owned by someone in St. Louis removes economic activity from the community while returning comparatively little to it. A working farm generates wages, purchases inputs at local supply stores, sustains families who spend money in local towns, and provides a diversified tax base. A hunting preserve generates a caretaker's salary and a seasonal visitor who brings supplies from home. The Airbnb investors are planning to operate short-term rental businesses in markets where the existing workforce has no affordable housing alternative. The communities around Table Rock Lake and the Lake of the Ozarks need workers. The workers need housing they can afford to rent or purchase. When available housing stock is increasingly owned by investors operating it as vacation rental property, the workforce that sustains the tourism economy is priced out of the communities where that economy exists. The tourism industry then faces a labor shortage driven by the investment activity of the people who benefit from it most. None of this is secret. Investment firms are regulated, Property sales are public records, and short-term rentals are listed on the internet for anyone to find. What makes it hard to see clearly is that it happens incrementally, one sale at a time, one conversion at a time, one local family that could not compete against a cash offer and moved on to something else. The family that sold Darvin Bentlage's land did not do anything wrong. They owned it for generations, and they had every right to the highest price the market would pay. The investment firm that bought it did not do anything illegal. They identified an underpriced asset class and deployed capital the way investment firms do. The Airbnb investor, converting a lake cabin into a short-term rental, is operating within Missouri law. None of the individual transactions in this story require a villain. What is happening is not criminal. It is structural. The structure of the current land market in the Ozarks is systematically transferring ownership from the people who have always lived here to entities that do not live here and never will. The land does not look different. The hills are still the hills. The rivers are still the rivers. But who holds the title to what lies beneath your feet in this region is changing in ways that will not be visible for another generation. When the children of the people who lost those farms try to buy land of their own and find there is none available that they can afford in the communities where their families have always been. Whether that matters is a question for the people who live here to answer, but they cannot answer it if they don't know what's being asked. Subscribe if you haven't. Hit the bell. Drop a comment. Are you seeing this in your county? Because the people who actually live on this land are always the first to know where it's going. Thank you for watching. The truth doesn't shout. It waits for you to look closer.